This week's episode of the Hook Podcast is brought to you by Hillrose Company Clothing. Get your exclusive Hook Podcast t-shirts there and check out our 2021 merch line. Check us out at hillroseco.com. It's the Hook Podcast, episode number 10, brought to you by Hillrose Clothing Company. And we don't have any video, but you can see my hoodie and KJ's hat. Yeah. You know, shameless plug to our own company, but we also sponsor the podcast, and you can get your exclusive Hook Podcast t-shirts there too. Head over to hillroseco.com. And this one we've been looking forward to. There's been a lot of talk about this person on the podcast. Her name has came up multiple times, and we reached out and we said, okay, you've been brought up multiple times. We're big fans, and we have to have you on. Alysa Vanderheym on the podcast today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for pronouncing my name right, by the way.
Yes. I think that there was a slight conversation a couple episodes ago about that. Because I'm pretty sure that I got it wrong when we were talking to Hunter. So then I felt like a jerk.
No,
we
I'm
fixed
very
it.
used to it. I'm very used to it. But
I mean, my name's Brayley. People can't get it right or spell it right. If it's right on a Starbucks cup, I'm like stoked.
That's funny.
Oh man, it's been a day here, and I'm so excited to do this episode. I've decided that you've made it when your publishing company has its own playlist for you on Spotify, and you have your own playlist. That's what I've decided is that you've made it at that point.
That was wild. I mean, that's Warner Chappell's the best for doing that. Like, they just make you feel like a fucking rock star.
Yeah. And it makes my life even easier. Not that we didn't know some of the stuff that you wrote, but there was some things on there that I was like, dang, I know that song. Holy crap. And that's kind of what we do here on the podcast. We bring on names that people may not know unless you're a nerd like me and you hit the show credits on Spotify, because I do that for every single song I listen to, I feel like. But
I do the same.
So
the same way.
That's kind of the point of the Hook Podcast, is to bring on, people like you who you may not know the name, but you sure as hell know some of the songs you wrote.
Oh, yeah. I was going through the list just, today, just kind of refreshing my memory of, the stuff that you've been on. And I literally text Brayley, dude, she does everything. She is unreal. Like, I'm so glad that you came on the podcast, because we just, I'm so impressed by the things that you've done and how long the list is. I mean, I was like, whoa, I had no idea that that you did the many, many things that you did. Just very cool, and just really grateful to have you on.
Thank you so much. And thank you for having me. And it's awesome.
Let's roll it all the way back. Pre-Nashville, pre-Belmont. Did you grow up outside of San Francisco? Is that, sometimes I can't believe the internet. I read things, but I never completely believe it.
Yeah, I did. Right outside San Francisco. And then I moved. I did 1 year of college in Seattle. And then I was like, okay, I need to do music for sure. I basically went to Seattle University for like a year just to make sure I wanted to do the music path. And then I realized Belmont had like the songwriting internship. So I just went full blown, moved to the
awesome.
South.
That's I mean, just a great school to go to. But let's go back a little bit more to your younger days. How did you get into music and writing and creating music?
It was just like a very natural tendency and attraction for me. None of my parents were really musical. So I just I remember like saving up for a drum set. That was like my first instrument, I guess. I would like bang on like Tupperware and stuff and like write songs, not really, but my grandpa gave me like a tape recorder or like a karaoke machine that was able to record. So that was like my first start. And then I like saved up for a drum set. While I was saving up for a drum set, I like bought like a cheap acoustic and like taught myself just from like this Beatles chord book, like chords and stuff.
Nice.
And then I was fortunate enough to come across this teacher in my hometown in Marin County, just north of San Francisco, who was like a really good songwriting teacher and like taught me the Nashville number system and a little bit of theory, which I fucking hated at the time, but I'm really glad I learned. I hated it so much. But yeah, he taught me just about like the power of different types of chords, and lyric writing and hooks and everything. So I'm really grateful for that. That was my senior year of high school. And I was in like a band for a couple years in high school too, just playing drums. But yeah, and then production kind of came later as I was at Belmont and I was realizing like how hard it was to get a publishing deal. And I was working at this restaurant called Marche in East Nashville. And I was like, I do not want to work here after graduation. Like, I was just the biggest motivator to like get a pub deal. So I just realized, I was like taking note, like Jimmy Robbins, a couple other people were just like killing it, who were, you know, producers as well. So that was kind of like my angle. I just like taught myself Logic. And I like tinkered with GarageBand, you know, beforehand. But yeah, I just kind of dove in, and a couple friends like Zach Abend, Will Weatherly, like other songwriters in town, like taught me like back then, like how to do shit. So
the coolest part
that was
about
kind of my angle.
The coolest part about that is that you could teach yourself, you know, those things. I remember opening GarageBand for the first time being like, wait a second, I can hit the keys and it'll play a piano and I don't know jack shit about piano. Like, this is awesome. This is so cool.
I still like can only play in one key. Like, I have to transpose everything.
Right. Absolutely. It's the way to do it though. Transpose as fast as you can. Yeah. When you went to Belmont, had you been to Nashville before? Did you know kind of about Nashville?
No, nothing. I like met the way I like found a place to live was just on Craigslist, like ahead of time, like the summer before the semester started. And it was like off Wedgwood, so it was like super close to campus.
You're the third person that has said that they had never been to town and found a place on Craigslist. Hunter said that he drove down Music Row the day he came to town, and Austin Burke told us that he met a guy on Craigslist as well, who's also like a writer in town and had hits before that. So
that's awesome. That's so funny.
What a crazy life.
I'm not sure about Craigslist now, but like 5 years ago, it was like still good.
For sure.
Recently, but yeah.
I couldn't tell you the last time that I was even on Craigslist at this point. So you get to town, you go to Belmont, and you start the songwriting, you know, the songwriting program there. Who all was there? Is there anybody that's in town now still that was like in your group of friends at that point?
For sure. Emily was. I mean, we weren't exactly friends. We had one class together. Emily Wiseman. I remember it was like some like history of music, something like that. And I remember thinking like, dude, she's really cool. She was really quiet, and I didn't like have any friends at Belmont. I was just like kind of had my head down and like I wasn't looking to party or like have fun. I was just trying to like grind. And I noticed the same thing about her. And so yeah, that was probably, we weren't in any songwriting classes together, just that like one random class. There's also this girl, Michelle Buzz, who was on Never Really Over by Katy Perry. She was in all of my songwriting classes. Like, those classes were like 12 people too, like, and we were all kind of in the same ones. So she's in LA now, but she's definitely doing well. Trying to think of anyone else. I think that might be it.
It's crazy the connections that you make, and then people, and sometimes they pan out. Sometimes you see people who just kind of disappear, and you're like, I wonder what happened to that person.
I know.
Cool that you still have some of those connections, and you're able to see some of your friends see success also, because that's always cool to start from the bottom and see people do well.
That never happens in radio.
No, everybody fails.
I believe it.
11 years in, and I'm still like, hey, where is everybody?
Yeah, totally. Same.
Did you guys go to college in Colorado?
Yeah, we went to the same broadcasting school, actually. Braley and I went to the same one, but Braley was my intern when I first was in radio, and then we became friends, and here we are like 10 years later, we started a podcast, and it's just super cool, like one of those situations.
That's awesome, man. That's what it's all about, like succeeding together.
So I want to dig a little bit more into, your production and writing. And obviously you started to cut your teeth when you were at Belmont and learn some of those things. But once you got out of school, what was that process like for you? Because I know that just, going from college, just because you have a college degree or you learn something doesn't mean anything. So what was that like for you after? Like, how did you get in?
I mean, I definitely learned, like, my songwriting skills improved from classes at Belmont, I will say. But I just like met a couple key co-writers at Belmont. One of them, his name is Matt Enoch. He doesn't really, I'm not sure. He like moved back to like Virginia or something after graduation, but we wrote like a lot of like pop country stuff together. My plan was honestly just to like focus in on the co-writers that I was like working well with and create like, I don't know, like 5 songs that I did the demo of and that I could just present to publishers. So I basically I was like on my own for 6 months after graduation, just working at the restaurant and then learning Logic basically and Pro Tools. Later I learned Pro Tools, but yeah, just like learning the shit and yeah, and then I had those like I had like a handful of songs that ended up getting my publishing deal, but yeah, it was just really like my head was down, like I just like wasn't doing anything else except for working at the restaurant and like being on my computer. So it was definitely a learning curve at first, but I loved it. Like I remember like going to bed and like not being able to like wait to wake up and like work, which I wish I had the same
the same word that
I like could not wait to wake up and like, it was crazy.
I love that you said there was something you said there that you just kept your head down and you just tried to produce, you know, your goal was 5 songs that you produced and wrote. And so you're showing that you're the all around person. And that definitely has came full circle now for you because you're not just a writer and you're not just a producer. You're doing both and you're doing multiple other things too. And I think that's so cool because I feel like a few of the other people we've talked to either came to town to be a player or came to town to be, you know, a tour manager or an artist, but they didn't have that, you know, oh, I kind of ended up being a writer or, oh, as a writer and I ended up being an artist. Like what you said there about keeping your head down and just trying to drive forward was that really, you know, hit home for me there for sure.
Yeah. So I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did it that way. I did.
Yeah. So you signed your publishing deal in 2015, correct?
Yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So what was that process like? Like you were still working at the restaurant at that point and then leading into your pub deal. What was the whole process? Because we've heard some people who, you know, they get their pub deal right away, or it's a really quick process. Or in the case of like, we just had Austin Burke on and he was going to sign with somebody else. And then he ran into Thomas Rhett and then Thomas Rhett was like, hey, at the first of the year, I'll sign you. And then it took a while. Yeah. Like, what was that process like for you?
So I was just kind of starting to get to know a few publishers in town. I had entered at Disney Music Publishing with Sierra, who's now at Curb. But that was like, I like remember wanting her to sign me so bad. And so I was like kind of making some relationships. This guy, Pete, who owned Big Deal, which is now Hypnosis, but Pete Robinson, he's like my Nashville dad. He was like the first person to like ask for like a meeting or basically like I was working or writing with this like young girl that they had signed there. And I like sent them the song and he was like, oh, you should come in for like a meeting. And that was the first time that anyone had asked for that. And then like it all happened super quick after that. Like this guy, Jesse Frazier, who's my publisher and who was my publisher at Major Bob, my first publishing deal, but he's like my biggest champion. He is the one that signed me, and he had heard my name from Brett Young at the time. I was like friends with in his crew, and I like had did a demo for him. This was before he had a record deal, and so Brett had asked Jesse to like beef up the demo I did because I was just like starting out, like I wasn't that good. So that's the first time he heard my name. And then my roommate, who I lived with on Wedgwood when I first moved to town, had like mentioned my name to him. So he had heard my name a few times. He'd asked for some demos. I sent him that like 5 songs or whatever. He didn't respond. And then when Pete hit me up and was asking for a meeting, I hit back Jesse and I was like, yo, like I'm taking some meetings. Like, did you want to meet or what? And then he like responded right away and he was like, oh yeah, for sure. Like, can you come by today or tomorrow? So I literally went there like 20 minutes later and he like offered me a deal on the spot. So it happened really fast. I took like a little time to decide who to sign with. At that, like once like one person offers you a deal, like a bunch of other people will. So I think Sierra at Disney, who I always had wanted to sign me, like came in with an offer like at the last minute, and Pete had offered something. But I just felt like Jesse was like my guy. He was also like a mentor for me, like with track wise, like he like helped me grow so much, especially at the beginning. And like I really looked up to him because he's so versatile as a producer and writer. Like versatility was always like my goal. Like I always wanted songs on like every chart at once, you know? So I just like felt like that was like my home.
And Jesse at that point had done some things, but 2015 is like where Jesse's career like really took off. Like I'm a big fan of Jesse in general, and so I just did a quick Google search when I had seen that you were signed by him. And I mean, at that time he had just had FGL Sundays.
Yeah, he had just had
TR stuff. Yeah, yep, Crash and Burn. And I mean, now he's one of the biggest guys on the face of the planet. And so,
but that was like literally the launch of his, you know, he hasn't slowed down. He's gotten like triple plays every year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Insane.
And was that going into the process of making that decision? Did that have a lot to do with it, to where you go, okay, I feel like this person could really help me move forward in all the lanes? Like you said, you wanted to be on all the charts at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he 100%. Yeah. He just checked like all the boxes that I was looking for, and didn't even know I was looking for in like a publisher and mentor. Like to have a mentor and a publisher in one was like huge. I didn't even know it was possible. So yeah, he helped me like excel quick at like a early start. Like I like saved so much time. Like he would just like listen to my mixes, you know, after he was done for the day, and like gave me tips, or like, you know, just he was just really great about mentoring me as a producer.
That's so cool. Having a mentor like that is huge. It really can like really project you into another atmosphere. If you have somebody who understands you and gets you and understands how to, you know, kind of finesse you in the right way to get you to understand something. Cause you know, it's so competitive in the environments that, you know, we all competitive. But, you know, to have somebody that can like help project you into another space that you're like, wow, I had no idea I was even capable.
I was capable. Exactly. I remember doing a track one time and I was like, oh my God, like one of my first tracks I did at Major Bob that I was like super proud of. And I was like, oh my God, like, but there was no way I could have done it without him.
Right. So cool.
So
that's awesome. Let's go into your first cut with FGL. How did you, you know, hook up with those guys, and, you know, how did you get there?
Talk you out of it?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was, let's see. Well, I had been going out on the road with FGL for like a couple years. They have Tree Vibes, which is a publishing company, and I'm not sure they do anymore, but they had like a writing bus that would go out on the road. And that was like really important for me, I think, at that stage. And any stage, I think, just like getting a taste of tour life, you know, riding on the bus with them and like other great riders they would have out. That was really like an honor for me to go out there. And so I had been going out there and developed a relationship with Tyler and BK, and didn't really write with them in town much. It was mostly on the bus. But one day it was Hunter and Jameson and I had a date, and we called Hardy like 30 minutes in. Because Hunter had this badass idea and I had this like track kind of queued up, and it was just like really going together well, and we were like, Hardy would like really help kill this. So he came over and we wrote it, and then I just sent it to Tyler because I had his number, and I'd never sent him songs before, but I sent it to him, and I had a feeling he would like it. So he like called me. He like didn't text or anything. He didn't text like, please hold. He called me and it was like, hey, thank you so much for sending this. We'd like to hold it. So I thought that was really classy of him. And then he called me again to say that they were going to single it. And I was like, dude, this guy's the best. Like, I love that he just calls. Like, that's awesome.
Hunter told us a story when he was on that y'all were cutting a vocal, and Tyler told you that they were going to hold it or that they were going to cut it. and you just took the call and just kind of like went on with your day. And then afterwards you're like, oh, hey, by the way, FGL's going to cut our song. And Hunter's like, well, why didn't you tell me when we were together?
I vaguely remember that now that you mentioned that. I think I do remember that now. That's hilarious.
It's very cool to hear the story from the opposite side, because when we heard it from, I was letting you finish because Hunter told us the same story, and it's just cool to hear your side of it and not knowing that he told us that.
I guess cool. We must have been writing like a different day, like a different song.
Yeah, he said that you guys were like cutting a vocal or something, and you took the call, and then he said something about, because I just went back and listened to the clip really quick, and he said that you came back and said, oh yeah, FGL's just gonna hold one of my songs, and then you guys left, and then you texted him and told him, and he was like, wait, we could have celebrated together.
I literally forgot that it was our song together. Like
that's what he said too.
Like, tripping, like I was just probably, yeah. I totally forgot that was our song.
That's awesome. That's
so funny.
It is fun to hear the stories from both sides too, because, you know, he had made a comment about that. Like you said, Hunter had a really badass idea, and Hunter was like, Lise had a really cool track, and then he like sang the track. And so it's fun to hear it from both ends to see, you know, who gives who props in that situation.
It was one of those days where I was just like feeling good before everyone got there. Like I would have my coffee. I was like feeling like super inspired. I was like talking to someone in the hallway about like my favorite artist, and we were talking about Justin Timberlake. And I was like, yeah, my favorite song is Until the End of Time by Justin Timberlake, which was the inspiration for that track. And I had gotten this new like amp thing. Someone let me borrow it. Jerry Flowers let me borrow this, like, it's like an amp simulator or whatever. And it had this sick ass, like, it almost sounded like this crystallized, like weird ass tone, but I just like was feeling it and like made this like, which was kind of like the End of Time beat, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, that track was like perfect for his idea, which was Talk You Out of It.
That's so cool. Was that your first like major label cut at that point?
That was like definitely my first single. I can't remember. Everyone asked me what my first cut was, and I really can't remember. But that was like my first like big cut. I really wish I could remember.
That's the one where your parents tell their friends and they go, "Oh, I've heard of them."
Yeah, exactly. My mom literally calls them FLG. She's like, "How's your FLG?"
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's so much fun. So after that, you get, you know, that's your first big one, and it's singles, and you've got that relationship. What was the next song that you were like, okay, I got another one?
I mean, I wrote the song. It was never a single, but I wrote it with Jaron Johnston, who's a badass writer, and I write with a lot.
From Count Like Three.
Yes, and Ben Burgess, who's also the fucking best.
Yep.
We wrote the song called "Grass is Always Greener," and Jake Owen cut it. It was never a single, but that was like another one where I was like really proud of that cut. And Jake Owen cut it like it was like on the first record with when he went back to Big Loud. So it was like Joey. I love Joey Moy's production so much. That was I'm not sure when that happened, but I'm trying to think of the next one that happened. I think that might have been the next. I can't remember.
That was the Kid Rock duet.
Sure
the Jake Owen Kid Rock duet. What a strange combo, God. But it also kind of works.
It worked for that song.
Were you a little hesitant on that when you heard that? Not that you have any skin in the game, you know.
We were definitely like wary of it, but we couldn't control it. We were just happy it was getting cut, and yeah, we couldn't really do anything. But yeah, we were like, oh, I guess it's not going to be a single.
Well, that's funny.
Yeah, just grateful for a cut.
Yeah, you got to be right at that point. You know, I want to dig in a little bit more into your skill sets because, you know, I mean, gosh, I'm just looking at this list of cuts that you've had and songs that you've been a part of. And it's, you know, what impresses me the most about you is that, you know, when we get some of these, you know, artists or writers that we've had on and you look, it's pretty consistent. They either write or they're on it, they're singing, but you do everything. And I was texting Braley like, man, is there anything she doesn't do? So what I want to know is, what do you like to do the most? Like, what is it that like gets you, because you can do it all. And I'm sure that if you wanted to, you could probably put out your own records and they'd be fire. So what do you like to do? What is your favorite? What gets you the most?
Okay, well, I was never like a singer. Like I always thought I had a shitty voice, like kind of tone deaf, not good. But I've like the past couple years I've like challenged myself to like dig deeper and like learn harmonies and just kind of like sing more. So that's kind of been exciting to like it's very simple, but just singing on demos more like BGVs or like it's allowed me to be more creative because I like don't know really like the right harmonies and shit. Same with guitar. Like I'm like self-taught. And so I think because I don't know how to play, that it's more fun. And I think that gives me an edge because I would play things that or sing things that other people wouldn't. So that I'm having fun with like vocal shit these days. I don't know, like what do I love to do? I mean, I really love like guitar, like as far as like production wise.
Yeah, just anything. Like what do you like when you know like is it making beats? Is it
Yeah.
is it like actually like the production side of putting together the tracks and producing the music? Like what is it that you enjoy the most? Obviously you're getting into some other things, which is so cool. But what do you enjoy?
I definitely enjoy making beats. I love like R&B shit. Just like making tracks like weird alt Mac Miller type things.
Nice.
I love yeah, making like little country shit. Like I love playing like acoustic guitar. I'm like really there's this guy Jason Reeves who's like a really good friend of mine and an unbelievable songwriter and guitar player, acoustic player, and he has really like influenced my playing and yeah, I think like production and like mixing is really important to me, like making sure the mix is as good as I can get it and just like growing in that way. I really enjoy like listening back to my songs if I'm really proud of the mix. Like I that gives me a lot of joy. And then writing too, like writing a sick melody or like contributing a line that everyone's excited about. I love that too.
If
Yeah.
if you could put out a record right now,
Mhm.
let's say,
Mhm.
it's an Alysa record,
Mhm.
what would that sound like to you? What would it be? Would it be a hip hop record? Would it be
it would
you're
for
gonna
sure
rap
be
on
like
it?
it would be like all R&B hip hop for sure.
Nice.
Awesome.
It'd be like, have you heard of the Internet?
Uh-uh.
Not too familiar.
They're sick. They're so good. Check out the album. I think it's
Okay.
called Ego Death. They're so good. Um, that's like they're like a huge influence for me for my ride for like if I was just to like be in the studio by myself late at night, that's like definitely like the vibe I go towards. Like or like Mac Miller kind of thing. Yeah, it would definitely be not country.
It's funny
Well,
you
you're
say
good.
that.
You're good
Oh,
at
good.
it. So
Thank you.
yeah.
I think that's the benefit of just being in town for a while and like being friends with the country boys like Hunter and everyone.
We had so much fun with Hunter. Hunter, we could
He's
have.
literally the salt of the earth. I love him
He
so
is.
much.
He was so funny. He was like, next time let's do this with beers. And I was like, okay, man, perfect.
I love
He's
him
like, when you
so
come to
much.
town, let's just do this again with beers. I was like, okay, we can do that. It's when you had made the comment about, that your record wouldn't sound country, there's some stuff in your catalog that is not country. And something that really stuck out to me was the track you did with the band Cameo. And it was
Oh yeah.
as soon as I'd never
Yeah.
heard of them. I had seen like people post about them on Instagram, stuff like that. And when I heard it, I was like, what is this? Because I
They're
come from
so
that like mid 2000s pop punk and it kind of sounds like that. And I love it.
100%. They're so sick, dude. And Jordan Schmidt, their producer, absolutely murders it. Like he crushed that shit.
Let's
I
go
love
into
them so
writing
much.
that song. What was that process like? Because are those Nashville guys or how does that whole situation
Uh,
start?
so the band had just moved to town at that point. Jameson Roper was like their manager, still is. But like set me up to write with Spencer and Jeffrey, who are like the two singers of the band. Excuse me. And it was I really like can't like take any credit for that song. Honestly, Jeff had this like I want to say he had a lot of the chorus done, and Seth Ennis was in that session as well. It was Jeff, Spencer, me, and Seth. But yeah, we like he had like a lot of that vibe already going, and so we just kind of filled in the gaps. And Seth really like crushed that one too, like lyrically. I remember like I was like going through my old stories on my Instagram, and I remember like seeing that I had posted like that demo. Sometimes I would like post demos or whatever, and I remember posting that one. But yeah, it came out sick. Jordan crushed that.
Yeah, it sounds so good. I'm a mixed nerd. Like, I love throwing in my in-ears and like cranking it up and listening to exactly what it sounds like. And people are like, why do you wear in-ears like that? I'm like, a song never sounds as perfect as it does coming out of a pair of in-ears.
I should do that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, that I will throw in my Ultimate ears and I will sit here and just listen to the mix because I'm a nerd like that.
I think Jeff Braun mixed that.
Hey, what's up? It's KJ from The Hook. We are stoked to announce that we just launched our 2021 line from Hillrose Company Clothing. All of our designs are fresh and original with a little bit of a rock and roll edge. There is a great selection of hoodies, tees, and hats. Check them out at hillroseco.com.
That's right, KJ. And don't forget, you can get your exclusive Hook Podcast t-shirts there as well.
Have you guys heard about like that secret, like, it's a conspiracy theory, but something about the Denver airport?
Yes. Oh yeah.
Definitely.
Sure. What is the vibe? What's like?
I'm a huge conspiracy theorist. I like watching them. I like learning about them, but sometimes I'm like, I don't know about that.
That's a stretch.
Well, they say that. Well, first thing they say that like there's all of this underground stuff, which makes sense because number one, there's a light rail type transportation that takes you from like terminal to terminal. I don't know if you've been to DIA or not.
I've been a few times just like stopping over, but yeah, there is like
so that terminal, like it's all underground and you can see like when you're going through it, you can see all these weird tunnels and stuff, but supposedly there's like a bunch. But the weirdest thing is they have these paintings in the airport that are like freak.
Yeah.
Like they're like, you know, end of world people in masks and like the big, you know, like if there was like I don't know, like an atomic bomb or something. And you know, and then there's all these kids. And then there's this guy with this sword and he's like around these kids. And then there's a plate in the airport that is, oh my gosh, I'm drawing a blank. What are they called? The Freemasons. So there's a Freemason logo on this plate, and it essentially says the New World Airport like organization or something. So, you know, for like New World Order stuff, it's crazy. And then the other last thing is there's this big blue Mustang that has red eyes, and it is the freakiest thing.
It's so freaky.
Whoa, like
but the worst, no, it's like it's probably like 150 feet tall, probably.
It's huge.
It's like out on the way to the airport. Yeah.
It fell on him and it killed him.
Wait, no way.
Yes. And they still put it up.
Yeah.
It's the weirdest thing.
It's not a painting. It's like a sculpture.
It's a sculpture.
It's probably 150 feet tall. It's out like as you're driving to the airport, right before you kind of like come around the corner to split off if you're going to go to like East or West Terminal. It's just this giant blue horse and it's got these glowing red eyes. And yeah, it killed the guy.
That's so crazy.
Weird. Yeah, it's freaky. There's a bunch of videos. Watch a video on it because I might have missed some stuff, but it is crazy.
It's nuts.
So are the paintings like in the terminal, just like anyone can see them?
Yeah. They took some of them down, I think, but yeah, they're on the wall.
The crazy one is still up because I was just there because we just went to Vegas a couple weeks ago and it's still there. It's like right by the Southwest check-in too.
Oh my!
Because you have to go past the Southwest check-in to then go down the escalator to the security, and it's like right on the wall. It's really creepy.
Wow, I'm
so
definitely
weird.
Gonna have to notice that next time I go.
Yeah, it's so much fun though.
That's crazy. I mean, there's got to be like underground bunkers, like for sure, like
100%.
Yeah, that's what they 100%. Say.
And they say that it's powered by when you're riding the train. If you watch really closely, there's these fans on the side of the wall as the train goes by, like as you're on the train. And they say that that's what powers the electricity for the underground bunkers.
It's so weird.
Yeah,
it's the weirdest thing. It's the weirdest airport. And what's crazy is before they built it, Stapleton was there. It's Stapleton Airport. And it was fine. It was fully functioning.
Yeah.
Like there was nothing. They didn't outgrow it. It wasn't.
Yeah.
There was literally no need to build an airport.
And to move it further out of town. It used to be way closer to downtown. Now it's like way the F out there.
Yeah. It's the craziest thing ever.
Yep. For sure.
Good question.
Yeah,
So you got me all excited. Now I'm talking about conspiracy theories, and I love it.
We'll do part 2.
There you go.
Yes, perfect. KJ's gonna have like 7 podcasts by the time that we're done with this. He's gonna do a barbecue podcast with Chris LaCourte.
Yep, 100%.
And you guys are gonna do conspiracy theories. I'm just gonna own the
it.
podcast network and just keep putting these out. Another song that comes to mind when you were talking about some of the production stuff that you do and things that I love in production was the One Republic Kygo cut that you have.
That was one of my favorite sessions ever of all time. That was it was like a year and a half ago, right when I signed at Rhythm House. I like a week later I went on this writing trip to Vegas that Warner Chappell put on. And it was honestly the best thing that's ever happened in my career was that trip. Like it was 2 weeks long, which was a long ass time to be in Vegas. But
yeah,
like the best of the best were there. Jason Evigan was there for a while. Everyone, like all the best people that are signed to Warner were there. And I got to write with one of my favorite artists, Marky Basie. We wrote a couple. And then there's this one session that we had. It was like a night session. And it was Jake Torrey, myself, this guy named Phil Plested, who's like a UK artist. Who else was on that? Alex Delicata, who was like one of my good friends now after that camp. It was like so fun. And then Reese, who did that 7 Year song by Lucas Graham.
Oh yeah.
That was, yeah, he like, it was just, we were all new. We were all like, none of us had any hits except for Reese, but he's like the most chill, like not like that at all. So it was just like everyone was like getting to know each other. It was like a really good energy. Everyone was like trying to write like a great song. It was just, it's all about the energy. I feel like every like great song that I've had or like that has like gotten placed somewhere important, the energy of the day has been like, it's all been consistent. The energy of the room that day, like it always produces something great. But anyways, everyone was like super excited and positive. And Reese just like started playing these piano chords. And then it just took off. And then we knew it was something amazing. So that was in Vegas. And we finished the session at like 4 a.m. Like it was like all night. I looked at the email when I turned it in. It was like 5 a.m.
Sometimes good things happen in Vegas, right?
Yeah, literally.
Not all bad things happen there.
Paid off all my debts.
Exactly, all your gambling debts. Perfect.
How did that then come about to end up being a Kygo One Republic cut after that?
So it was like pitched around. We turned it in. Like all the publishers were stoked about it. I think Jesse helped secure it to go to Kygo's camp, and then once it was with Kygo, it was just a matter of finding a feature. Like we played around with like Dan and Shay. Who else? Dermont Kennedy cut it at one point. Lauv cut it. Tedder cut it, and it was kind of Kygo's call to decide who he liked, and he liked Tedder, and him and Tedder are pretty close. So yeah, we were like so honored that he cut it. At first we were like, oh, do we want like Lauv, because he was like a little like more current at the time, than One Republic. But I'm glad we did it we chose that route.
One Republic, Colorado guys. Denver guys.
Are they really?
Yeah, they're from here.
Dope. That's sick.
I just saw them at Red Rocks last summer. Well, the summer before quarantine, and they shot the whole thing.
I bet they put on an epic show.
It was so. I've seen them 2 different times in 2 really goofy venues, other than Red Rocks not being goofy, but they shot it all for like a movie or something that they did. And then I saw them another time when I lived here the first time, and they were just about to be ginormous. Like Good Life wasn't the single yet.
Okay.
And they played on the Capitol steps here in the city. It was so weird. It was like a nighttime thing, and their lights were rigged to the Capitol. It was like a whole thing. And then after that, they exploded.
Exploded, man. Huge. Tedder's a monster.
Yeah, the dude writes everything. I feel like it's like when I see your name, I'm like, oh, Alysa's on everything. It's like Ryan Tedder's on everything.
Do not compare me to Ryan Tedder.
Oh, that's funny. I want to talk a little bit about TikTok, because TikTok is insane right now. I still see people who snub their nose at it, and I just laugh because I'm like, do you not realize that everybody in America is on TikTok? And like, it's not like, I guess it kind of used to be the thing that it was like only the people who couldn't really make it are now on TikTok. But man, I just feel like what Tyler Rich has been able to do, and just the things that are happening are insane. Like, what is your perspective of it? How do you see it? Because I see it being used as an artist perspective, but how do you feel about it?
I'm not sure. Like, I have yet to see like long-term effects. Like, are these artists who are blowing up, like, not talking about Tyler because he was kind of signed
for
before
sure
TikTok, but like these artists that are like getting record deals based off of their TikToks. I'm like, that's great, but is there longevity in this? Like, I'm just not sure. Like, I'm not, I mean, I'm really grateful that it's like blowing up like songs that I written like with Tyler and stuff. It's really powerful.
Yeah, for sure. There's an artist, I don't know if you know her, Lily Rose.
She's on my calendar coming up.
Just blew up, got a record deal. The songs are just going nuts right now on TikTok, and it's just crazy to see.
I know.
These artists like that. They go from like literally like not known.
It's crazy.
To being in the office signing a deal with a record label. It's just really crazy, but there's a lot of power in it for sure.
For sure.
Like the way that artists are utilizing it to like we were talking to Austin Burke about it, about how he uses it as his A&R team. Really, he puts a song out and he says, what do you think?
I love
the
that
song out.
I freaking love that.
And it's so cool because how else would you have got that immediate response? Like, right away whether a song is going to blow or not.
Totally, man. I really, it's really helpful, especially in times where you're not like playing out live. You can't test it out live.
For sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you guys have, I mean, the song that you did with Tyler Rich, Better Than You Used To, I went back and watched the TikTok again, and it's just him and his wife in his car, and he says, oh, this is a demo, and he plays it. That video has 3.3 million views right now and over 30,000 shares.
That's insane.
And now it's out.
Blows my mind. Yeah.
And now, you guys have a single out.
That's why it's out.
Yeah.
That's why it's out. The label was just like, oh. I mean, the labels understand. They're like, oh, it's blowing up on TikTok. Do it now. Put it out.
Do you remember what that situation was like? Did you have any part of that, knowing that he had done that? Because you produced it and wrote it, correct?
Yeah. That was like a demo. That was just the demo we wrote. It was like totally a Zoom, right? It was over the summer. I was in California and the boys were here in Nashville. So we just did it over Zoom. And then when we wrote it, we were like, this is super hitty. I hope the label likes it, but they didn't like really like care about it. And then I guess Tyler posted it. And then the label was like, hey, we love this.
It seemed like it was a pretty quick situation too, from just like scrolling back through his TikTok. It was like the video came out on like Tuesday, and he legitimately says in the thing, I just wrote this is the demo. And then the next day it's like, hey, I was gonna do a different video, but thank you for 1 million views. And then a month later, now you guys have it. Was in my new release radar on Spotify on Friday.
Yeah, the label was like, hey, can we like speed this up? Like, we need this to be out. It was all Zoom too. Like, I was in Hawaii when I got the call from Tyler and the label. So I just like sent it to a drummer I know, Miles, and a bass player, got that in, and then kept most of what the demo was. Actually, we had like the original cut was like the intro being more like up front and like rockin', but we just kept like the demo intro. So yeah, we kept it pretty similar to how it was, just because if it already had blown up like that, like we didn't want to change it that much.
Yeah, you don't want to mess with it very much.
And we kept all his original vocals. That was an interesting way to do a record, by the way. I was just like in Hawaii, like sitting in a Airbnb, like finishing the mix. It was really cool, actually.
That's really cool. And that's something that you'll think back on. Like, you've never probably done a song like that. When you think 2020, you'll be like, oh yeah, that weird Tyler Rich record that I did.
No, it's actually super empowering that, we can do this. Like, even if it wasn't COVID, like people are used to doing things so remotely now. And it's very freeing, actually.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because it's nice. I love traveling. I love being other places other than Nashville.
That's the good thing about Zoom at this point.
Yeah.
Like, we do all of these on Zoom, and we're like, well, I can't wait for touring season, because then we can just do these backstage hanging out. It's a little more personal, but at the same time, to be able to have people like you on through Zoom is way easier than, being like, hey, we're going to be in town. Do you have some time? Do we have a place that we can do this?
It's super convenient.
Yeah.
For
now, as a radio nerd, I have to go to Cold Beer Call My Name.
Yes, my favorite song.
Is that actually your favorite song?
I've never had more fun writing a song than when I wrote that song.
Let's go to that day. Because we didn't get to dive into it with Hunter. We ran out of time with Hunter that we didn't get to chat about this.
Yeah, so that was just like, it was like a day session, normal like 11 a.m. We didn't have shit. Like we were just like sitting there like stump logs. And then our friend Allison comes in, who is just like a friend who was working at Warren Chapel at the time. She had like a meeting in the whatever, just stopped in. She was like, wow, like the vibe in here is like so bad. Like you guys don't have shit. And we were like,
probably made you feel great too.
Yeah, we were like, yeah. But then after she left, we like got onto something, which was that song. And then we like finished it like a night later, like some night, like, a few days later. But I had never had more fun. Like that was just the most freaking fun ever. Like I loved that.
Do you remember what the first thing was that when you guys went, okay, that's something? Do you remember what the line was or anything?
I can't quite remember. I think it might have been Brett Tyler. He like really drove that right. I have to give him all the credit on that, on finishing that shit. I'm sure it had to do with the title though, like Cold Beer Calling My Name. I'm sure he had that title, or someone did.
I heard it on my way in and I was like, gosh, this is such a good song. It's so good.
I love it so much.
When you heard that it was Luke Combs, as the feature, were you like, okay, we were stoked. And that we was might like got one
Luke
here.
Was like, yeah, that was like before Luke was like had so much success. Like he was like, he wasn't like the radio king that he is now. So we were stoked. It's like insurance. Like, okay, it's really good. It's gonna go. Like he's never not had a number one. But of course, like Jameson had a number one on his own for his first song. So we weren't worried anyways, but it was nice to hear that for sure. And they're on the same label, so that makes sense.
Yeah, no more clearance. You just can put it right out.
Yeah, it was super sick.
So we have friends of the pod, and well, some of them are Braley's friends. So to be honest, like I'm not as cool as Braley. Braley has like some of the coolest friends in the world. I mean, like even some of his personal friends that I've tried to steal away from him because he just has such cool friends. Like
too much cool for one person.
Yeah, like I just want some of it to rub off on me, But
KJ always says that it's fun to do the podcast because I have cool friends, and I'm like, I guess. I mean,
yeah, well, if it was my friends, like the podcast would suck. That's for sure. But I want to talk about a couple of our friends that we've gained through the podcast that you might know. Do you know the After Midtown guys at all?
Yes, 100%. We've written.
Yeah, let's talk about those guys because they're the funnest dudes that I've met.
They're the funnest. Oh my god, I love them so much. They're such a breath of fresh air too.
For sure.
Love their style.
Yeah, me too.
They don't care about what anybody thinks, and it just so comes through in their music. Like you can hear so many. When they came on, I still listen to their stuff today, and I'm just blown away that they're able to incorporate some of the elements of other genres into country music that I'm like, what? No one is doing that.
They're so sick. They remind me of like early FGL. I'm sure everyone says that.
A little bit, yeah.
In the best way. Like
yeah, totally.
Yes.
They have this metal side too that is like so cool, dude, and it's like
Adam's production.
Yeah, it's sick.
Ridiculous. Like his drumming too.
He texts us.
He's a monster.
They text us demos, and I'm like, well, putting that one in my phone. Gonna hang on to that and listen to it in the car.
They're sick. They make me want to like jump off buildings.
Yes. So have you done anything with them yet?
Amped. We actually wrote a 6 song with Hunter, and like one with Emily too.
I have the demo for the song that you guys wrote with Hunter. He texted that. Michael texted it to KJ and I.
Yeah, the one with Emily is sick too. I'll send that to you.
That'd be awesome.
They're the best.
We always ask a question of. There's always 2 questions we ask on the podcast. Is the first one I always say is, who is your like go-to person if you've got an idea and you're like, oh, I'm gonna save this for blank, because when we asked Michael and Adam, your name came up first person they brought up was you. So I always have to ask, who is that person for you when you have that idea and you're like, oh, I know I'm writing with this person in 3 or 4 days. I have to save that for them.
I mean, it definitely, there's a lot of people that could be on that list. Emily is one of them. She's an incredible songwriter. Incredible. There's this girl named Jordan Shellhart who's signed to Sony. She's under the radar right now, but she's like, I swear to God, the next Hillary Lindsay. I write with her a lot. She's unbelievable. Like the way she writes songs, just her craft. Ben Burgess, one of those guys for me. He's just
love him. He's so good.
He's the best there is. Like,
I would Jesse love Alexander to have Ben on the podcast.
Oh, he's you have to. And then there's like, I love writing with like older country people that have, you know, that aren't exactly in my class, but like have been around longer, like Jesse Alexander, Ben Hayslip, Jimmy Erie, some older, they're not old, but you know, in the next class above. I feel like it's like classes like on Music Row, like, you know.
For sure. The other question we always ask is, when you turn on the radio, what's the song you hear and you go, damn it, I wish I would have wrote that?
Probably any Morgan Wallen song. Let's see. Actually though, I mean, Whiskey Glasses, I fucking love that song. That's a great question.
It always stumps people. I'm trying to remember what some of the fun ones were. I can't even remember. There was, Adam said some like Billy Currington song or Randy Houser or something.
Dude.
Something super random that made no sense when I thought of Adam, you know?
Billy Currington has so many jams.
Oh, for sure.
I had this song called that he cut that is now was just cut by FGL. I was gonna say FLG because my mom.
It's wearing off. Better be careful.
Yeah. He cut this song of mine called Life Rolls On that he sounded so good on, and I mean, I'm glad it's out now, but I wish it would have worked out. I wish I got a Billy Currington cut. He's the shit.
But you got the title track on an FGL record, so
that's true. Also, suck. Billy hasn't put out music in so long. I wish he would.
Me too. I'm a huge fan of his.
He's so good.
Music, for sure.
To answer your question though, there's this Blake Shelton song that was a single a few years ago. I want to say, what's it called? Starts with a G. It's like a Craig Wiseman, Luke Laird song. It's like a two-way. Gunna. It's called Gunna. That's my shit. That's like my favorite song ever.
The
groove on that song, it's so good.
Jake Rose tells us really fun Craig Wiseman stories because him and Wiseman are like super close. So that's our one favor that we're about to ask is if he can hook us up with Wiseman. We've been holding in our favors.
Yep.
He's the godfather of this town.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And he's a hoot.
A hoot.
A hoot.
Does he go by Cat Daddy?
People call him that, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just love that it's on that car.
We could probably do this for an hour and just talk production and mixing and, you know, just nerd out. But you probably have way better things to do than hang out with us. But
no, I could do this forever too. You're the best.
One more thing I do want to cover before we wrap, and we have a playlist that we put together of stuff that we love and things, you know, things that you've worked on or things that other people on the podcast have worked on, or, you know, artists that people may not have heard, and the joys of not doing this on the radio, coming from radios. I can do whatever I damn well please, and I can put whatever music I want in it. And one song that is in there prior to us even having you on was Drew Green.
Oh, and hell yeah.
I love that song.
Oh, I can't take any credit for that, but he's the shit, and that song is my favorite song. Are you talking about She Got That?
Yeah, She Got That.
Yeah.
And you produced it, right?
Yes, along with Mark Trussell.
Okay.
But yeah, that song is the shit. Like, what a hit. Like, that freaking verse coming in like that, I'm like, okay, that's a hit song.
Yes, 100%.
I love that song so much.
So
yeah. And Drew is like the best person ever. Like, he's so hardworking and like sweet, and like I love him so much. He's the best.
I can't wait to see more things that come out with your name on them. And I feel like every time I click the credits, I see your name. And my fiance is a big, you know, she's a songwriter in her own. And so every time she sees a female songwriter like you, she's like, oh, I have to go listen to it. So
thanks, Braley.
Yes. And we love the things that you're doing for female songwriters and production. And, you know, you're our first female on the podcast. We've been trying hard to, you know, highlight some of the badass females in country music. And so
it's a little weird though when guys like us DM you on. It's like, who are these guys? Like, what are they trying to get?
No, thank you for hitting me up. It's an honor, really.
No, it's an honor to have you on. I think of, honestly, of most of the people that we've had on this podcast, I was the most excited to have you on because of all of the things you do. And I just think it's so cool because we're both production nerds in our own right, that we came from radio. We both did radio production, and I know it's different and we're not like making cool hit songs or anything like that, but it's still, audio engineering and all of that. We totally geek out on that stuff, and you're just so super talented, and we're so lucky to have you on and just so grateful that you came on.
Thank you so much, you guys. This has been the best hour ever.
Oh, it's been an hour already. I didn't even notice that. These things
say
fly
hour.
by.
It felt like
I know.
15 minutes.
I know. It felt like 20 minutes.
For sure.
But
well, thank you so much for coming on, and we'll, as things keep rolling for you, we'll have you on again for sure.
Yes, I would love to come back. You guys are awesome.